please help me welcome Nick Kenny.
Quietly, modern agriculture has backgrounded the greatest period of growth and prosperity in human history. Because of this quiet approach, agriculture has been undervalued. I fully anticipate that agriculture will recover its proper place in society, as these pendulums always swing into equilibrium.
I predict there will be a time in the not too distant future when communities will be abandoned for lack of water, and we will regret that we have permanently traded prime farmland for apartments, condos, and tract homes. A heated topic of discussion regarding alfalfa is that of export. Alfalfa hay has been exported from the southern Arizona and southern California deserts on a regular basis since the early 1970s. Agricultural economies have almost always been subjected to the free market fundamentals of supply and demand. Essentially, produce where it is most feasible and deliver it to where it is most valuable. Arizona is an excellent place to grow alfalfa because of our favorable climate that allows for up to 10 harvests of premium quality alfalfa per year, compared to 3 to 4 harvests in other areas. Trade routes were established to move food and fiber from the Americas around the world over 500 years ago. We have exported food under a free market economy while simultaneously being the most prosperous people ever. I much prefer that we can be exporters of American food than rely on imported food. Of course, the acute discussion point is whether we should be utilizing the limited water resource in the desert to produce alfalfa for consumption across the ocean. The concern is that there will be detrimental impacts on the actual residents of Arizona. I agree that this concern is legitimate, and I'll share a few points to frame this discussion. It is estimated that only 20% of Arizona alfalfa is sold for export. The majority is grown for local consumption. The demand for alfalfa in the multiple foreign economies is currently higher than in America, enough so to pay to have it shipped thousands of miles across an ocean. Third point, only a small amount of the water used in producing the alfalfa is exported. Most water is recycled as part of the water cycle. For reference, a 100-pound bale of hay is approximately 2.5 gallons of water, so not much physically is moving. Last point, food security is a very strong deterrent for violence, and helping people to prosper where they live is a humane venture. And I might add one that's crucial for economic security in many fronts. There's an old saying that water flows uphill to money. I suspect due to political pressures and population growth in Arizona, efforts will be made to better secure water rights for municipalities, pushing for refined legislation and increased regulation on agricultural water use. Point. Actual legislation needs to be crafted with prudence and an understanding that the same folks who directly use water for drinking, sanitation, and recreation rely on water utilized outside of the urban confines to provide the food and fiber that is equally vital. With these topics mounting, there continues to be the topic of new water. This topic is unbelievably nuanced and of peak interest to me. Frankly, it's an engineer's dream topic. I'll summarize some take-home points on this. As more people have moved into the desert Southwest, more water has been required. Consider that Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, and Las Vegas have a combined population of 25 million residents in 2023. Compare this to 13 million in 1980. In the course of my lifetime, the population in these communities has almost exactly doubled. It is a resource balance challenge. At some point, there was significantly less demand for the water resource than what nature provided. This is not the case now. If we are to sustain or develop the current demand on water, additional or new water will need to be brought into the region. One approach is to transfer fresh water from more abundant regions into the Southwest. The primary targets are from the Mississippi River watershed and from the Columbia River watershed. Ideally, water is only taken during times of excess, like flood situations, and the associated ecosystems are not detrimentally impacted. Of course, the folks who currently reside in these areas have a say as to whether this is a good idea or not. Another source of new water is through desalination of ocean water. Ongoing consideration is being given to desalinating water from the Gulf of California and piping it into southern Arizona across Sonora, Mexico. Another approach is to desalinate Pacific Ocean water along the coast of California for use in California cities to reduce their reliance upon the Colorado River. The reduced use of the river water would then allow for the supply to be more available across the entire path of the Colorado River. I might interject there as well that in regards to the Colorado River that has 7 states cooperating, it would be very, very nice if we could leverage effectively to make sure that all 7 of those states are having proper consideration for the needs of developing economies throughout the region. Wise water projects in the past have gotten us to this point. It is this time for modern projects based on the current and future population. Something that's interesting about 1980 that I mentioned is that is roughly the time when the Central Arizona Project was realized, and a new source of water became more abundant for multiple folks, and a population spike had came based on essentially the backgrounding of bringing water in for agriculture. I think that political will needs to be exercised again to look at that next iteration. If we're going to grow in volume and grow in people, you have to increase that simultaneously with resource. Like I stated earlier, this challenge is an engineer's dream, not a dreamer's dream. These projects will require political will and force like we have never seen before. An immense amount of dedicated energy development and consumption, huge efforts to frame and minimize the negative impacts on the ecosystem, and an enormous amount of money. I would hope that everyone would understand that there is a real and substantial water cost associated with life. There are no free lunches. Agriculture is the industry that efficiently converts the raw materials into the food and fiber that support our great lives. If there's to be a real change in the amount of water devoted to the production of food and fiber, there will need to be an equally impactful change in consumption. The public has the choice to determine in which order the change occurs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. As I always say, every time I'm around Nick, I learn something new. So thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.